It's a really story. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and I'm here tonight to talk about Attack of the Black Rectangles by Amy Sarig King. This one crossed my radar because I saw it on a list of recommended books that had come out this year, and for the life of me I can't remember what the list was, but I read the blurb, it sounded really interesting and timely, and so I picked it up. Mac is a 12-year-old. He lives in a small town that's a lot like the town in Footloose, except instead of dancing, there's all sorts of other things that their town is not allowed to do. Kids aren't allowed to be out past a 9 p.m. curfew. They can't have pizza delivery in town. There are limitations on the junk food that can be sold there, among all sorts of other things. It's a very constrained way of living. And Mac's life is constrained too. He lives with his mom and hangs out with his grandfather, and his dad is sort of in and out of the picture once a week to work with Mac on this spaceship that he has stashed in their garage. According to Mac's dad, he's a kind of alien anthropologist conducting a mission to Earth, and that's why he doesn't communicate the same as other people. In his English class at school, Mac is assigned to a reading group, and his group is assigned the book The Devil's Arithmetic by Jane Yolen. But when he starts reading the book, he notices that a word is crossed out. Not just crossed out, but redacted, with a black censor bar across it. And he's confused. He has no idea why someone would edit this book. So he reads further, and there's another instance of words being redacted, just covered in an angry black rectangle. And Mac's not sure what's going on, but it seems to be the case with the copies of the books that the other people in his group are reading as well. So he and his grandfather make a trip to a local bookstore, and he finds a copy of The Devil's Arithmetic. When Mac looks at the brand new copy, he finds that the passages that were covered had to do with a character describing herself covering her breasts to hide them from the Nazi guards in the book. Mac is baffled as to why those passages would be censored. They were told in a way that expressed how vulnerable and dangerous the protagonist in the book was. It certainly wasn't to make people laugh or see the protagonist in a sexual way. And when he brings up the topic to his teacher, she brushes it off. Mac tells his mom and his grandpa what's going on, and they come up with a plan for him to bring the topic further, and he brings it up with the principal along with some members of his group. And the principal brushes it off too. And so Mac is left to find a new way to find out what's happened to this book and to keep it from happening again while making unedited copies available to the readers in the future at that school. While all that is playing out, Mac learns that he has a crush on Marcy, the girl who's in the group with him and who he's been friends with for years. He has a blow-up with his best friend Dennis, who he's been friends with for years. Then Mac's dad has a blow-up with his family members, and he takes the spaceship and a bunch of Mac's stuff and leaves. Things fall apart for Mac, and life isn't going very good, and he has to decide how he's going to move forward and whether he's going to keep up the fight against that book censorship or not. It was good. It wasn't bad at all. It really reminded me of the book Ban This Book by Ellen Gratz, which I also have a video about. The topics it covers about censorship and a small vocal minority imposing their views on others is a really timely message. And it's fine. There were things I didn't like about it, and I'll get into that in a moment. But if you're looking for a book that talks about censorship and intellectual freedom, and the idea that students should be able to read what they'd like subject to a conversation with their parents, then you might want to give this one a try. If you enjoyed Ban This Book by Alan Gratz, take a look at this one. With that said, there are spoilers ahead because I have to talk about the deal breakers. First off, this is a lot like Alan Gratz' Ban This Book, in that it seems to be written to appeal to a librarian audience rather than general audience. It's written to appeal to library staff members who will desperately want to read about a 12-year-old who likes reading and is committed to intellectual freedom and wants to learn and is unimpressed with censorship and is willing to explore his own biases. Of course, we'd want to read about that. I don't know if the general public is as interested. It comes across in the same vein as other books like Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library, where the goal, in my opinion, I love Chris Grabenstein, but in my opinion, the goal of that book and this one as well was to have library staff members talking about it and interested in it and playing it up during Freedom to Read Week or Banned Books Week or other times, or in any anti-censorship displays, that we would put this front and center in front of an audience, regardless of whether this would be their first choice or not. The other deal breaker is that, while I understand this is meant as a coming-of-age novel, that part of that process should be Mac questioning his parents and having conflict with them and growing beyond them in some ways, Mac's dad seemed so superfluous to the plot and just unnecessary. Mac is a bright kid. He has all this inclination to find out what's really going on and to stand up for himself and to push for the freedom to read what he wants in an uncensored way, but he believes his dad has a spaceship and that he's an alien, and I don't know. My only thought is that maybe the author felt that putting Mac's dad in there was a good way to make Mac turn more towards his grandfather, who is in a better position to be someone who would be fighting for the same sorts of freedoms Mac is, and who had fought those fights in the past. Maybe it was just a generational thing to find Mac a male role model that could be on his side, that would be generationally appropriate for this particular conflict. I'm not sure. It's just, his dad could have been written out of the book. Mac could have lived with his single mom and his grandfather, and the book would lose about 25 pages and really, in my opinion, not be changed a whole lot. I still liked it. I think it was worth my time to read it. I think if you are really big on giving your students or your children examples of intellectual freedom and why censorship is a bad thing and what they can do about it if their efforts to read are being censored, then this is probably a good book to read. But I don't know, it's not in my top 10 for this year. Anyway, with that, thank you for listening to me talk about this book. If you use and appreciate the services your public library offers, why not take just 1 minute and let the powers that be know exactly that? Tell your counselor, tell your mayor, tell your MP or MLA that you value and appreciate your local public libraries. We're at a time where some public libraries are having trouble finding sustainable funding that can allow them to keep improving the programs and services that you love. And a few words in the right ears might make a world of difference. If by some chance you are a library staff member, don't forget, watching my videos counts as professional development time. With that, thanks for listening to me talk about this book. By all means, please like, please subscribe, and please check back to see what else I have to talk about from the Cowhat Library. Thank you. Bye now.